All right, let's warmly welcome to the stage Maria Kilegran, Finance System and Process Manager from Storytel, Stefan Faith-Ell, NetSuite Product Owner from Void Technology, and Andrew Rudchuk, Head of Finance from Starship Technologies. Thank you. All right, welcome to Helsinki.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you had a nice morning?
Indeed.
Indeed, yeah.
Indeed. Okay, good. You got some coffee and some breakfast as well.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Hey, let's dig into this panel discussion. And I think that my introduction of you was quite short. But I think it's better that you introduce yourself and also the company that you represent, so we could start with a round table, and I think that we are polite and start with the ladies first.
Okay. First, I say thank you for having me here. I represent Storytel. For those who don't know what kind of company that is, we are a streaming service for audio and ebooks. Globally, we represent 25 markets. My role within the company is basically transforming us from a very manual, high pain of growth to become more automated and getting more bang for the buck, so to say.
Right. Andrew?
Yes, hello. My name is Andrew, and I'm from Starship Technologies. And we produce autonomous delivery robots. And the company was founded by Skype founders in 2014. And we operate in 5 countries, in Finland, Estonia, Germany, UK, and US. And last month we achieved a huge milestone. We set 11 million kilometers driven, so it's like 15 times to the moon and back. And so basically we have robots that operates site work and deliver food to the people. And I'm responsible for finance systems and data and processes and everything in between. Thank you.
Great. And Stefan?
My name is Stefan Faith-Ell. I work for Void Technology. You might have seen the coral red scooters on the street here in Helsinki. We operate scooters in 100 cities in Europe and in more than 10 countries. We started in 2018, and end of 18 we was maybe 40 people. I joined in end of 2019, and now we are 1,200 people. Soon we have supplied 200 million rides all over Europe. My background is I was in the old days I competed with Staria as a solution provider for NetSuite, so I've been involved in more than 40 implementations of NetSuite as a consultant and also sales. But now I work very hands-on in NetSuite, and I like it a lot.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I guess, we will look at, Storytel, Void, and Starship, and I just want to share a short story because I was having dinner with my mom last Sunday, and she asked about who are going to enter this panel discussion. And then Storytel, obviously, audiobooks, you know them. Void, you see them on the streets. And also Starship, maybe not first from the name, but then when telling her that, it's the robots. Okay, that's robots. You get kind of, you have a smile when you see them moving on the street. So yeah, familiar companies and familiar services. But hey, back to the international growth and connected to NetSuite, and you all mentioned that you are already operating in several countries and probably also planning to enter some new markets and countries as well. We sort of have a recurring question that we also asked, for example, last year. If you think about the countries that you have entered with the companies, which have been the most sort of difficult or challenging country? Because this is a discussion that we also have each day when we talk with our customers, that sort of, is it more difficult to go there or there? What would you say? Do you have any experience from that? Yeah, you are free to take it.
I think NetSuite is a great product to roll out in globally. Of course, there are challenges, big and small, but it's some countries are more complicated, and sometimes it's more hard to find qualified resources for some countries, and so that's it's. But overall, for our journey has been quite no big issues. Even though if you ask our CFO, he might think it has been issues, but it's no big issues. I would say from a NetSuite or technical perspective. But of course, you need to address things before they get issues. So I've heard of lots of other companies with big issues failing. So you need to find the right resources and be take ownership of the process.
Exactly. How about Maria or Andrew?
Yeah. I'll go. Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to divide the question into two pieces, because business-wise, being in the audiobook industry, obviously language is a big thing. Going into a country or a market, for example, if we take India, they got 20 languages within India. So how do you come up with audiobooks? Which one would you pick? Do you want to go for the full country or the subscribers, or just a little piece of it? Spanish is in Spanish in all Spanish-speaking languages, countries. So that is a big challenge, being in the industry we are in. But then from a finance perspective, obviously a lot of countries have legal requirements that are very specific. So that can be very difficult for example, for the systems and for the finance department. We just only learned that in Singapore you have to have a watermark on all your receipts that you send out to the customer, meaning we cannot provide those receipts from a central system or from NetSuite even. We need to have a local provider. Those are big challenges when you kind of enter new markets. At least in our business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, I also will divide this into the two parts: internal challenges and external. So external challenges is basically each new country for us was super challenging, and it's because we have different business models in each country. Like we started in UK and we operate with small merchants initially and in small cities or neighborhoods. And later we moved to partner with big retail companies, because you can partner with one company and you will get access to many areas and stores. So it's in UK. In US, it was another story, because in US we operate in university campuses, and it's another business model. In Germany, for example, we operate in industrial campuses, so we need to partner with big corporates and to work with them. And in Finland as well, last year we made some kind of test. We launched our operations here in Finland. We learned, and then this year with S Group, we signed a partnership, and now we operate in 9 areas with 40 stores. And it also was something new for us. And in Estonia, yes, we operate with small merchants. What I want to say, it's like we are still like trying to find our product market fit. So it's not easy. We can just take one model and replicate it in all the countries. Theoretically we can, but it would require a lot of investment. So that is why it's one of the reasons why we also signed a partnership with Bolt, because we cannot compete with them, but we can work with them. So, and of course, this brings a lot of challenges for business development team, for management team, and so it's external part. And internal part is, of course, connected to processes, systems, data, and flow. And initially, when we entered those markets, we had different systems. So each new market, they had different like accounting system or expense management system, bank, and so on. And of course, it's when you add a new country with a new set of systems, it just extend your period and close, and it just reduce the accuracy of the data that management team can get to make a decision. So, and of course, it was another challenge to make it simple, transparent, and scalable.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting insights. And also when we talk about the sort of the challenges that sort of from a company perspective that you have faced when you are all representing like fast-growing companies. So, but based on from your role and from what you are doing in sort of your daily work, what would you say have been the sort of biggest or a big challenge from your own daily work working in a fast-growing, internationally growing company? Can you recall any? A lot of things happening, absolutely.
Manage expectations is very important, and not try to build very complex solutions. So keep it simple. That is my best advice.
I would say, how can I even pick only one?
Yeah, you don't need to pick one, but
that's the challenge.
We only have an hour, so.
No, but I would say that from my perspective, the biggest challenge has been every target is moving because the growth is so rapid. So trying to slow everything down to make the right decisions, and moving from doing everything manual, because when you have heavy growth, that's nearly the only solution you can come up with when you need to fix everything in 2 seconds. You just chuck in a pair of hands and get the job done. But then you have to do that transition into the automation. And so I say that's the biggest challenge every day in my work still.
Okay, and so for us it was maybe change management, because when you need to improve something or when you need to implement something, it always change management. And you know, like when people come on to work with something, with some process, with some system, it's sometimes it's complicated to convince them that we need to change it because current setup is not able to be a platform for future growth. And change management in different areas, from implementing central procurement, or from moving to one ERP NetSuite, or for moving to one expense management solution. And so this is the biggest challenge, because we have technologies and we have people. People are lazy, and it's totally, I mean, it's normal. So you need to convince management team that we need to take this step to make simplification and to improve processes. So, and again, it's just benefit all of the company. So change management is the biggest challenge, and it's also like you need to engage people. You need to make them make a decision, because when you invite people to solve a challenge, they can feel that they are part of this solution. So then they can spend more time and attention and energy to help you and not to block you. So yeah, I believe this is the biggest.
Yeah.
Engagement is very, very important, and push the process owners to really take ownership and, for example, create short guides and test. It's not our responsibility to to test. It's their responsibility to document and test, and push them to really take ownership, because they tend to avoid that. So you really need to be tough.
That's good, because that's, I think, also from as a Staria point of view as a solution provider. So I mean, both the change management, but also the who is responsible and who is the end user. That is, I mean, really important as well to keep in mind.
And sometimes challenge stakeholders that say that this is important, and really ask, why is it important? And is it important now, or in 1 year, or when we are double the size? So,
Yesterday.
yeah, that's the typical answer, isn't it? And but if you push it even harder, you might find that more other things are more important. So if you get 50 things to do, what is the really most important thing right now? And if you take the wrong decision in some of those areas, you might get headache later. So maybe it's better to wait with some processes and do it manually for a couple of months or even years, if you are about to take a bad decision, or if you don't know what you're doing. So really pick the right things to do, and of course, to make it more efficient while you're growing is tough, but you need to be tough against your managers, and you need to be tough against NetSuite to get correct support or correct pricing. Otherwise, you are out of business.
Exactly, and I think Arti touched based on that as well. That I mean, growth is changing, and growth is, how was the quote? Growth is the only evidence of life, and I mean, growth does not look like the same it did 3-4 years ago, for example. How would you say? Because I tend to kind of, both in the news, podcasts, it's all of the main focus from investors and owners are still on growth, but I think that it's more on also the profitable growth. And from that point of view, a system like NetSuite plays, I would say, even a bigger role, because you really need to be on the numbers, so to say. Would you admit with that?
I admit to the change to focus on profit, and about the numbers, it's can be quite tricky to get the good numbers, and sometimes you need to go outside NetSuite to aggregate and summarize. But if you can make it happen in NetSuite, that's the best solution. But otherwise, you need to look elsewhere.
Yeah, I think in my line, I would say that NetSuite is a good foundation, but you shouldn't narrow it down to only be that. You should find other applications and connect everything to get the full picture and getting the data the way you need it, when you need it, and how you need it. So I think it's important to try to find a seamless solution that will work with your business to get the numbers you need at the time.
Okay, so in Starship we had this like goal to have a single source of truth, and
Still a goal.
I mean it's process. It's like a life. So, and for us it was very important to bring all the data into the NetSuite, because we wanted to avoid any situation when we cannot control data before it can be displayed to the management team. So we're trying to bring all the transactional data into the NetSuite, like sales or expenses and so on. And that is why we moved to all the countries to NetSuite, all subsidiaries, and all like apps around, like expense management solution or whatever. We try to bring this data to NetSuite. And then, of course, all transactional data resides in NetSuite. And this is the key, because then we can be sure that data is accurate, and there is like small risks to have an incorrect data or to manipulate with data. And of course, like for reporting and so on, we have like data warehouse where we can add some additional metrics like kilometers driven or robots and so on. But it's not like transactional data, and then to display this data to the management team. But for us, it's like very important to have only one single source of truth, because then it's really complicated to manage, and then when you will grow, this house will grow as well. But if you will try to keep this line, and at least to try to bring all the data to NetSuite, then you should be fine in future.
If you have big volumes, you must summarize the data, because NetSuite might be not good enough to handle big data.
Yeah, I mean, it's just technical question how you will include your sales by sales order or by just like area or whatever, but at least it would have this transactional data. So
in a startup, it's sometimes very hard to get answers. What dimensions do you need? How do you want to do your reporting? And typically in the beginning of the journey, you have not that experienced people, so they can list lots of things, and it will be too complicated. But luckily, NetSuite is quite easy to change, add the dimensions later on. So I would say keep it simple until you really know what you need, and it will change. So if you early take decisions of 5 or 10 dimensions, they will typically be changed 1 year later if it's a startup. So skip them maybe if you're not sure.
Yeah, let's fix them later. If we move also more to NetSuite and sort of going back in time a bit, and I know that some of you was maybe not involved in that sort of decision-making process because you've entered the company later on. But what would you, or can you recall, or what do you think were the main reasons back when your company chose NetSuite? What was the main reasons why it ended up with Oracle NetSuite? To start with Andrew this time.
Okay. So when I joined Starship, it was already NetSuite was already almost implemented in several subsidiaries, and what was the reason behind the NetSuite? And of course, like most probably to have a solution that can support the, future growth and can handle different countries and so on. But I think it was maybe not too early, but it was decision about implementation in NetSuite, but it wasn't completed properly. And instead of using different functionality of NetSuite, by accounting team, they have been using journal entries to post all different transactions. So, and of course it was halfway. So, but if I will answer that question, then of course, when it comes to international company, then of course you need to have one solution, because if you will have different accounting solutions in different countries, it just will make it so complicated for finance team to manage and for accurate reporting. And because we also have manufacturing, and we also wanted to bring manufacturing into the NetSuite. Again, because when you will have your MRP solution outside of ERP solutions, then again it can bring some manual work, incorrect data, and so on. So for us, NetSuite is like a platform that can meet our expectations today. And we also right now implementing manufacturing, so we migrate from another MRP solution to NetSuite. So basically we will have accounting, finance, and manufacturing data all in one. And this is very important. And we also know that when we will enter new markets, then of course we can add those countries into the NetSuite. And another benefit of having NetSuite is localization and taxes and so on, because it's hard to find ERP solutions that can support your growth in different countries, and you never know where you will go. I mean, you can plan, but still. So yeah, I think this is like foundation for finance team to move forward.
I mean, we started implementation in 2018, which was before my time. I think having one system where you can have multiple entities and you can actually work kind of across processes rather than entity by entity was a big thing. It also was the most trending system, being quite young company, and sort of techie, wanting to have the latest and the greatest. There is no other choice but NetSuite. So I think also that was a part of it. But the one world solution also with the tax solutions and the localizations, you can get a lot of system help in different markets where it can be very difficult. And it's so flexible, which is also dangerous because you can build something that you don't need. But when you don't really know where you're going or how much, I think it's very good to have that flexibility and you can kind of build on it so you don't have to move out straight away. I don't think it will be, well, maybe sometime it will be too small, but I think that's going to be a very long time ahead. And I think those are probably main reasons why we chose it. And I think it's great. I love it.
Yeah. Was that also at the same time, or when, I mean, Storytel is a public listed company as well, was that at some point at the same time, or was it before or after? Or?
I think it was after going public, which was an acquisition, that's why. But we stayed too long in our old ERP, and it was too kind of local, because it just exploded on the different markets. Yeah. So we have maybe 15 different countries through NetSuite now. So we needed something quite quickly. So yeah.
All right. How is it with Voi? I actually have a sort of a short story from a personal point of view working within NetSuite sales, and especially on the Swedish market. I remember, I think it was back in 2018, if I'm correct, or yeah. I saw the guys at Östermalm, they were charging the scooters. They had the cables coming down from their investor's office, and they charged the scooters outside of the Louis Vuitton boutique in Östermalm. And I went there and talked with the guys. It happened to be Fredrik Hjelm, one of the founders, or the founder. And after that, of course, checking, writing him a message on LinkedIn, and he was polite and answered, not relevant for now. And I think it was 6 months later, and I heard that Voi is a NetSuite customer. So what would you say, Harm, if you were not maybe there at that time, but yeah.
I joined a few months after they signed for NetSuite, and that was a reason why I called it Voi, because I wanted to work with the product NetSuite. I think they didn't really think that much themselves about choosing an ERP. You need to ask Fredrik. He's a great guy, so he will answer you truthfully. Yeah. But I think they just went with the flow. NetSuite is very popular among, if you got venture capital and you aim for going public. So I think it was a quick decision for them, and they actually thought, now we bought an ERP, all our problems are solved. That was the internal message, because they had so much issues with everything. So I joined 2 months later, and they told me it's perfect, everything is solved. But now, almost 4 years later, we still are only halfway, but that's normal. I would say it's perfectly normal that it takes time. And if you go too fast, you will do lots of errors. But of course, you need to. My advice is to go live as quick as possible with something that is a little bit better than what you have before, and then develop it. So I think it was a good decision by Fredrik, but I don't think he really know what he did.
Okay. All right.
But sometimes the smart people think better than yourself, so that's why I say that.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that some parts you might want to keep in NetSuite, but some other parts might be better to have a supporting software or handle if it's massive data amount, for example. But if we have like a sort of a wish list, what would you have any development sort of ideas towards NetSuite or other solution providers such as Staria within the Suite app ecosystem that you kind of miss this small feature that would help your daily life or daily work? Anything that you can recall?
It's such a long list.
Okay.
But that is also, as you mentioned, the platform is really good. So, and there is great support, for example, text you mentioned. But still, you need to really do your homework, and sometimes NetSuite doesn't work. But it's always like that. So you need to really take ownership and think, how could this work for me? And I would say, for some companies, some modules are perfect. The same module is not perfect for the next company. So don't take everything just because it's there. Test it and think it through.
I would say that it could be a little bit faster when you collect the real-time data, if I could pick one. But I mean, if you go back maybe 5, 8 years, 10 perhaps, just showing how old I am, I would say that it was, I mean, you were supposed to have one ERP and you were supposed to centralize everything, one system that fixes everything. But it's not really the perfect fit, depending on where you are and where you're going, etc. So I think it's a really good match that NetSuite can actually focus on their core. They should develop the best core there is, and then have good integration possibilities to other systems, so that you can get the best of everything. A little piece of the best will give you universe, basically. So, yeah. Exactly. But it could go faster when you collect data.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, I mean, NetSuite have been on that journey already for 20 plus years, being NetLedger back in late 90s and now becoming more and more, or of course a full-blown ERP, but adding features and modules all the time. So that's interesting to see. Andrew, any particular development ideas?
Yeah, I think it's built for finance teams, and it's not built for employees like all the company. And many transactional data that is created in the company, it's created outside of NetSuite. And NetSuite is just like a system there where you have tables that just have GL accounts and you have balances and so on. So that is why I think it's not so good, because companies always need to go to the market and to find some additional applications that would help them to handle data entering for employees. And this can be like expense management solutions, because in many cases all the companies they're using, like in the past it was Expensify, today we have different like expense management solutions that trying to be all-in-one expense management solution, from reimbursement to card spending, virtual cards, purchase requisitions, purchase orders. And companies need to go to the market to find a new solution, to pay for those solutions and so on. And of course, if NetSuite can cover this area as well, then of course it could benefit and bring a lot of growth for NetSuite and also partners. So, so basically to make it not finance-centric, but employee-centric, and try to keep, like, to replace those external applications and make it very simple for employees. Because, again, it was built, I don't know, 20 years back or like 25 years back, I believe. Yeah, it was anniversary, something like. And the UI of NetSuite, It's like today we have different AI solutions and so on. And I think NetSuite also should think about this because you have a lot of different, I don't know. Again, it's not user-friendly, I would say. So it's not like SAP, but still it's in the same in the same game. So make it employee-centric, make it around employees. So yeah.
All right. What would you? I mean, I guess that both, or I know that here in the audience and probably also on the online or who follows the online stream. I mean, pondering of we have to do something. We are going to change ERP system. NetSuite being probably shortlisted as one of, I don't know, 2-3 options. What would be your sort of best advice to the audience pondering whether to go with NetSuite or not?
Absolutely. But my advice is to find internal resources that can handle and take ownership of the project. And keep it simple and don't trust the partners or NetSuite for everything. You really need to secure that you got your best consultants and that they will stay. You get the best contract from NetSuite, long-term, multi-year. What happens if we grow? What happens if we don't grow or decrease for some time? So think long-term and really try to secure resources and a subscription agreement.
I would say do your homework properly. Question your own processes and question whatever the NetSuite consultants say to you so that you make sure that you get the best out of everything. Because, I mean, it's very common that you are in an ERP and you just want to duplicate that into something else that is bigger and you probably think, well, it's just going to solve everybody's problem. But it's actually you have to do the work. So I think it's really important to look at your processes, you look at the system, have it demoed over and over again, so that you know how to build the future process, because you will have to change the way you do things so that it fits the system, because that's how you get kind of like the best outcome of it. So that would be my advice. And I would choose my partner wisely. I would even maybe have a couple of different ones in the beginning so that I can challenge them. I think it's very important. Why not over and over again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ask Staria, so what you need to do. Still, I mean, like, internal operations should follow external operations, and again, you can make decision about like your ERP solution based on your business model and your future plans. It can be IPO or I don't know, whatever, or if you plan to have a lot of audits and so on. So it's like, like I think we have discussed a lot of things and challenges that we faced in our companies with separated accounting systems and separated operations and processes. And of course, if you will not do that, then you would need to have a bigger finance team, because you would need to handle a lot of different processes and things and so on. And from other side, for me, it was like always to build finance like processes and so on around the systems, because people can leave the company, there are like new people and so on, and we know that all these knowledges, they like flow with your company. But if you will build a good foundation of systems and processes, then when new people will come, they will follow those processes. So it's also about to keep your company sustainable and not dependent on people. So it can be dependent on systems, and you can be sure that it would work in 1 year and 2 years and 3 years. So yeah, I think it's very important step for any company, because you are not implementing ERP solutions like every year. It's like you cannot do that. So it's like strategic step for next 10 years, most probably. So it's investment.
Exactly.
I can add that Voi signed for NetSuite more than a year after they started, and they were in 5 or 6 countries or more before they signed for NetSuite. So in the beginning, they used local accounting firms with their local systems, and that gave some. They didn't need really to think about everything, but it also got quite messy, and reporting was hard. So they needed to gather all the numbers and consolidate in Excel. So when we rolled out NetSuite, we started in Sweden and then Germany, or UK and Germany, and then I think Finland, Norway, Denmark, France, Belgium, and so forth. So we took it a little bit piece by piece, and even though it wasn't perfect to use accounting firms, it gave us some. We didn't really need. We didn't need a big bang to go decide everything to begin with. So that worked quite well for us, even though reporting was a mess in the beginning. But we could roll out NetSuite quite in our own phase, where we could save the most money, replace the most expensive accounting firms in that order, or where it didn't work. And we still have a accounting firm in one country, if I remember correctly, because it's quite small. If it grows, we might replace them, but it's a cheap solution. Not cheap, it's not that costly. And we still consolidate in NetSuite. We summarize the data and import it just for reporting. So that could be a model for many companies, I think. And typically they don't buy NetSuite in the beginning. So typically they have a local system that didn't really work in the other countries, or they have lots of accounting firms doing the work. So that could be something to think of.
I would say that usually what we, from Staria's point of view, what we see, I mean, that's set up. But maybe then when you are sort of exceeding, of course, it depends on what countries and business, but to manage 4 to 5 countries or entities in different systems, gathering, and for example, I would say that Excel is still the most common used consolidation system. But sort of when you go above that, then you kind of see also that we need to kind of get a better sort of overview of what's happening.
And if that early, you might not have the budget to really do it properly in the beginning. So maybe it's better to wait until you have the budget or the people to do it properly.
Yeah, and in Storytel we've used exactly that model as well with the firms, and then we bring country by country in.
Yeah.
So like in a steady pace, so no rush.
Yeah.
And the typical, I don't know, NetSuite has this implementation method that quite quick implement lots of things their way. So that might not always be the best way to do it, the NetSuite recommended way, because you really need to challenge what order to do things and how to do it, and what is important, what should we spend time on, because their standard project might not be focusing on the things you need to focus on. So we stopped that project in the beginning and did it ourselves instead, because they focused on the wrong thing. And it's understandable. They try to sell most of all, and a buyer like us, we can have different demands. We seldom we do the best. We don't really know what's best for us. If you are experts on scooters or robots or books, the top management, they don't really know the best. So they order something and they sign something, and then when the project starts, when they get experienced resources looking at the plan and the project, maybe it's best to just skip it and start all over, and be brave to challenge and question what you really signed for.
And another advice is to look inside because many companies, they focus on sales, customers, growth, and so on, and how to get more cash and so on. And many people think that back office is just like they will handle. They can do like those transactions. It's boring stuff. But like CFO and management team, especially CFO, they should invest into their internal operations, because then this would benefit them as a CFO. And we are happy to have a great CFO in Starship who had this vision with systems, processes, and automation around everything. So it's very important because, you know, like each person invests some time to read the books, to gain new skills, to develop themselves. And the same goes to the company as a like. So you need to invest in internal operations in order for you to succeed in the future. You will not see those benefits immediately, like you will find a new customer or partner and you will get revenue. So it's like, in many cases, it's like hidden flows inside the company. And you need to keep this in appropriate way so you can grow.
We mentioned already about rolling out and taking piece by piece or country by country or a couple of countries. After this, when you have done it for several times, of course, it's always the local requirements. But have you internally made some sort of, for example, playbook that when it's time again for a new country, you sort of have a playbook how to do it both from a system point of view, but also maybe from an operational point of view? Is that something you have developed or working with?
We have used the same method for all new countries, and that is to try to do most things ourselves centrally, and try to implement a shared service functionality. All work the same in all countries where possible. Of course, use the same chart of account, same calendar, and of course you need typically some extra accounts. But if you try to have their own chart of accounts in all countries, or if you try to use multi-book, it will take lots more resources, and you might risk. That complexity gives lots of risk. So keep it simple, and we typically try to find very 5+ experienced local consultants and talk to them for maybe 2-4 hour sessions and really find out what are the issues in this country, and don't trust sellers that try to sell a bundle for this country, because most of the time historically they don't really work, and most of the time they solve the problem that you really want to solve, and most of the time you can quite easily fix those small issues yourself. So don't buy all bundles you see, or try to understand what they really solve, and try to fix it yourself, because otherwise you will have hundreds of custom fields that must work together, and it's complex to do reporting and to develop the solution further. I'm not saying you should buy some bundles, probably. We have the Staria bundle, but we don't use it because it was easier for us to solve things ourselves and have it standardized.
Yeah. I guess that we are also, we see a lot of users that still have maybe the accounting could be outsourced for the global entities, and the team could be a team of 2 to 3 persons sometimes as well. And of course, then you have limited resources as well. So it's maybe easier then to, of course, get that help if you don't have the sort of the time in-house, if we say it like that.
So I would say that we have it yes and no. Internally, we haven't really managed to do all the boring stuff yet. So we're still working on our processes and how to. But of course, bringing in other countries, you kind of know what to avoid, so you know what questions to ask, because you get that experience country by country. But also yes, we have it, because I don't myself. I'm not like Stefan. I don't do anything myself. I have a partner. Well, I work with Staria very closely, and I am confident that the Storytel team knows exactly how to and have that documented for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like in our case, when we start to work in a new country like Finland, of course we are not implementing NetSuite immediately because it's investment, and of course at first we need to prove business model and efficiency of a new area or new country, and of course it takes a lot of time. I mean, it's like it can take a year or 2 years, and then we start to implement NetSuite, or like embed this country into the NetSuite basically. And we don't have any playbook how to do that. I mean, we have an experience with previous subsidiaries, but in any case, like we did for Estonia implementation, of course we try to understand the specifics of like Estonia from tax point of view, because like for 90% or 80% your operations is the same from country to country. Of course you have specifics for some country and you need to know them, and yes, you need to investigate, and in many cases you can solve it by your own, but for example, like with Estonia, Staria helped us to implement localization, because for us it would take a lot of time to build this by ourselves, and it's not necessary, because you already have a like add-on that you can start to use it, and Staria helped us to implement it in Estonia. And the same way for bank integration. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, really good insights, and also, I mean, also to see that you can do it in different ways, of course, and
Absolutely.
yeah. One thing that I would like to ask you to share also, because we were a bit to the question about, for those who are now thinking about maybe going with NetSuite or with any other system, we tend to get that question that how much of our time is needed for such a project. And of course, we do our best, of course, for budgeting wise to provide with workload estimates for sort of the hours or days that it takes for Staria experts to implement. But of course, it's quite challenging for us to estimate how many hours it will take for the Void team or for the Storytel or Starship team to. How would you say, I mean, from that point of view, we were a bit into that you need to be well prepared, you need to have done the research, you need to have the will also in the company that we are going to do this. What would you answer to that question?
When I used to sell NetSuite as a partner, I told our prospects and customers that they should spend as much time as our consultants spend helping you or working in the system. And the more time you spend in the system, the better the result will be. So customers, users typically spend too little time in the project and in the system, learning the system, testing the system. But from the VOI approach was to find experienced resources, so we did 95% ourselves. So it's different in all scenarios, but typically I think customers spends too little time really testing and questioning and asking why are we doing like this.
Yeah, and I would like to return the question and say, how much good of return of your investment would you like to have? Because the more time you invest in the project, the better outcome you will have. This is not something you do once and then it's done. It's a work that will never end. And if you do a lot of work in the beginning, you could possibly just relax a little bit further down the line. If you don't do your homework and putting all those hours in the beginning, you will most likely have to do it later on. Exactly. So I think it's really important not to underestimate the time, because you're going
to change lots if you don't
Exactly.
participate.
'Cause I mean, you're going to live with this, hopefully, for a very long time.
Exactly.
It's like getting your driver's license. You don't drive the car once and then you get your license. You need to practice and practice. You could use that model in the project as well.
Yeah.
Because you are also the one who would need to lead the implementation consultants. They've done this over and over again. They have their model. They just go in and out quickly. 6 months, maybe, I don't know. But you will have to spend a lot more time than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
And
think
see it as a long-term investment in the time. Yeah.
I think you agree with Samu from Framery when
Yes.
he talked about maybe it was a big investment back then, but it sure paid off at the end, sort
Exactly.
of, and also, of course, enabled their huge growth as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think like accurate budget estimate by Staria is not depending on Staria, but depending on the company. Because if you don't know what you need, and if you don't understand your inner processes or what is happening today and how you would like to see it in the future, then of course you cannot draft in appropriate way some kind of requirements that can be taken by Staria and estimated. So I would advise at first to make internal work and to understand all the process inside of the company that is connected to finance. Understand what is wrong, where is challenges, and to draft some kind of to-be. So it's not about like NetSuite, or it's not about system, it's about your future of your company and your finance systems and how you would like to see them. So when you will understand your current state, when you will understand your challenges, and when you will understand how exactly you see internal operations in the future, and you can answer any question around this, then you can go to partner and ask for estimate. And then you will get most accurate estimate. Of course, like with all implementations, I had my past experience with SAP, and it wasn't like estimated always. It's like over budget always. But SAP, it's more about like large companies, and it's like years to implement. But if you're not like so, if you're a small company, like then of course you can do your homework, and then you can go and ask for advice or implementation or budget. So then you can understand how much you need to invest to get to the point where you will get what you expect to get.
Exactly. Yeah.
And as a customer, save some. If you have a time plan and a budget for a project by anyone, save some, reserve some budget for fixing afterwards, because you will find out that you need to change things, and you find out that you miss things. So save some budget to do it, to correct things and add things.
Yeah. And I also think that, I mean, a wise buyer also, of course, I mean, wants a couple of offers as well. And of course, I mean, if one offer is, for example, 75% more than the other, then I guess that we are not comparing the apples to apples. So, I mean, that's also an important thing, that how have the discussion been, and are we talking about the same scope, for example?
Yeah, and it's very hard to estimate an ERP project. So what's really in it? What can you expect to have if you get this budget or that budget?
Exactly.
Do the supplier really knows? Yeah. Sometimes not. It's just they just estimate like this and try to do the best.
Yeah.
So question what you really will get. What happens if we cut the budget by 40%, or what happens if we add 40%?
Exactly. I think that it's time maybe also to see if we have any questions or comments in the audience. I think that, we have a microphone there as well. So, I mean, otherwise I will check the chat box as well. But, there we have that.
Maybe you can hear me from here?
Yeah.
I'll just shout. Hello? Oh, fantastic. So thank you for the conversation. I just wanted to ask, about Starships and specifically Voy as well, because you guys said that for Starship you are working with Vault because you can't compete with them. Is that a strategy you're also applying to when you're choosing where you're going to grow? Like if there's already a well-established, a big company that's taken over a big market share in where you're trying to expand, such as you said to Finland, do you always want to work with that company? Is that something you do in all your locations, or do you specifically first try to find markets where there isn't big players to become the big player? Or what's your approach to that? I also have another question, but first that one.
Okay, I can start. So, yeah, like as I said, product market fit. It's like to meet a wife for all your life. When you will meet it, you can feel it, and it's hard process. And many companies they fail to find the product market fit. And we never compete with Bolt or Volt or I don't know GrabHub. Of course, from one side we are in this game of delivery market. But of course, we never had like a strategy to build the company like a Bolt when we have like agreements with merchants and we need to handle all of them and we need to deliver our robots, operations, and so on. And of course, it takes a lot of time. And Bolt is also located in Estonia, and it took 9 years for Starship, 9 years, to have a partnership with Bolt. And because for many years it was everyone talking about like why Starship is not partnering with Bolt, because Starship can provide robots and Bolt can use those robots to make deliveries and reduce delivery cost, which is a key for delivery companies. So, and it took a lot of years for us to prove the model that we can make deliveries and our robots can operate in different environments and so on. But of course now, when we're entering a partnership with Bolt, for example, we will not go to all the markets in the same time. Again, we'll make it step by step. Why? Because again, you need to build a partnership model. You need to understand how teams will work together. You need to build some kind of playbook, then which you can later take and replicate to different markets where Bolt is operating, for example. And of course, we will start with Estonia because we are here in Estonia and it's easy to set up everything in your local market and then go to global market. So yes, and of course, our goal is to have robots as a service. We don't want to deal with merchants directly, but we can provide our robots as a service for delivery companies or retail companies, so they can use robots to make deliveries instead of human and reduce delivery cost. And like there are a lot of like cutoffs for delivery companies because of delivery cost. So this our end goal most probably to have those partnership. And with retail chains like S Group or Co-op in UK as well, it's we provide our robots as a service for them, and then they can locate these robots in different stores, and customers can use their own like applications. Like you can use Bolt application or you can use Co-op application, for example, to order delivery, and delivery would be made by a robot. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's more over an add-on than a separate competitor, if I understood correctly.
So we are not competing. We're enabling each other to serve better in a sustainable way.
Okay. I also have another question. Hopefully I'm not taking too many questions away from the rest of the people here. But I wanted to ask, what about, since you're a tech company, but you also have hardware, like Voy is scooters, and you have robots. When you're looking to grow into a new new country or a completely new area, somewhere completely different, how would I say this? Vandalism or any of these things, is that a consideration? Is that a factor when you're looking to go into a new area? Because the robots surely cost a lot of money, and the scooters, the same thing with all the technology going on with them. So outside of the technology, more of a hardware question. When you're focusing on the hardware, is that a consideration when you're looking to expand into a new area, or what's the processes that you're considering when looking to expand and grow as a business?
I have some general insight regarding Voi in this area, but we have developed our own scooters. Some competitors they buy ready scooters from the manufacturers, but we developed our own scooter. And of course, there are different demands on different markets. So we might need to add features like parking services, security features, geofencing, lowering the speed in some areas. So if you compare the scooter today which will held up for 5-6 years, and the version 1 that we bought from Ninebot in China, it held up for a couple of months and didn't have none of those features. So it's a total different game now and different hardware. And some markets are free, you can just put the scooters out there. Some markets are you need to win a tender to be 1 or 2 or 3 operators in that city. So if you have a well-developed platform and lots of small pieces you can put together quickly to fulfill the specific demands from a city, it's easier to win tenders. And so far we have focused a lot on that. So we are the number 1 scooter operator for tendered markets where you really need to convince the city. So we have 26% of that tendered market, and there are 50 scooter operators in Europe. So we have been very successful in that area, and that is a key success factor. And to answer your other question, what cities do we pick to operate in? If we can't see a clear path to be number 1 or 2 in that city, it's not a city for us. If it's really dominated by a different player right now, and we can't find a way to win that market, it might be better to go for another city. So it's versus some of our competitors, they just buy lots of scooters and put them everywhere and don't really take care of them, if you ask me. So we are much more quality focused and really try to fulfill all the requirements from the cities, and that's our key success factor.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Let's take a question also from the chat. I've seen that we have a couple of questions here. We have sort of 1 or 2 minutes left, so we sure don't have time to take all the questions. But here is please keep it short because we are ending of time. For each speaker, if you could redo each specific implementation, what would you have done different? Anything that pops to your mind, what would you have done different?
Our homework.
Okay.
What did you say?
Our homework. Yeah.
Anything that crosses your mind?
I will do the same.
I will do the same.
Well done.
We also have a short question if you want to share for each speaker. What modules are in use and how do you support NetSuite, your internal team, and contractors for which tasks, consulting companies, and for which tasks? So basically, what modules do you have several modules in use?
We have all finance modules and most finance modules and supply chain. So we have put a lot of work on the supply chain also we have 70 or so workshops where we repair the scooters. So supply chain and finance is the key modules we use.
Yeah. We have several as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the finance ones, and then project accounting and others. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, for us as well, plus manufacturing. So
Anything else from the audience? Yes?
What about financial planning? Is that something you have on top, or how?
Not at Voi. It's a different. It's not really NetSuite from the beginning. So, and we have other solutions.
Yeah, the same. It's like, yeah. So the same. We have another FP&A solution because, to be honest, NetSuite is not. It's not a good solution for FP&A budgeting, forecasting, for versioning, and so on. You can, like, of course, we're using NetSuite like budgeting feature, but it's more for tracking only. Like, you know, if you're in line with budget when you make a purchase order, if you're exceeding the budget to see the warning and so on. So it's like controlling function, but planning, forecasting, it's done outside of NetSuite. Okay.
Yeah, we also have it outside.
I cannot say. I mean, it's, you know, like, there are like Anaplan and different FP&A solutions. So from these like players, we have it.
I'm so sorry, but we need to wrap it up. We are already over time. But a huge thank you, Stefan, Maria, Andrew, for joining. And I hope that you also enjoyed the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.